Yo, welcome to the channel. In this video today we're going over the Stamina Dragonknight for the Deadlands patch. Let's go ahead and get into it. Maximum health is 19.6k, maximum stamina is 35.4, stamina recovery is 1.5 on buff, weapon damage is 3.9 on buff, weapon critical is 57.8, and physical penetration is 2.5. Now I have 64 points and 2 stamina, so keep in mind that I am a Khajiit, so your points may vary to mine. And then buffed up stamina recovery is 1.9, weapon damage is 4.9. Now keep in mind this is not including the one of the sets because it doesn't show on the stat sheet, and the weapon enchant proc. So normally we're around 5, 4, 5, 5. So the boon I'm running is the Thief. The food I'm running is the Lavafoot Soup and Sultries. So champion points, passive wise, we have Gilded Fingers and Gilded Fortune, or Fortune's Favor. Basically just increases our gold. Gilded Fingers increases our gold gain by 10%. And Fortune's Favor increases our gold by 50% every time we open a treasure chest or a safe box. Now, Steadfast Enchantment increases when our weapon charge goes off. It has a 50% chance to not use it. And then ones that I keep on my bar, I keep Treasure Hunter on my bar at all times. Just increases the quality of items I find in treasure chest, which is always nice. And then Master Gather and Plentiful Harvest, I keep on my bar. Because basically, I get double resources. I have a 50% chance to get double resources from nodes, and it reduces the time it takes for me harvesting a node by 50%. Now, I keep these on while waiting for dungeon queues, trial teams to form, whatever's going on. If I've got to wait for something, then I'm usually farming, and that's where these come in. Now, another one that I keep on my bar at all times is Liquid Efficiency. Whenever you use a potion or poison, you have a 10% chance to not consume it. Now, we can get away with not using weapon power pots on here, on this setup. So this isn't necessarily a big deal, but I still keep it on my bar at all times, just so I'm used to it. And then, if you don't care for the gathering ones, you can always put Rationaire on, which will add an additional 30 minutes to your food or drink. And then Steed's Blessing, which will increase your out-of-combat movement speed by 20%. Now, in the red one, there are so many passives, so we're going to go over the ones on my bar. Balanced Vitality, which gives us an extra 1400 max health. Fortified, which gives us an extra 1.7k armor. Rejuvenation, which gives us 90 health, magic, and stamina recovery. And then Bloody Renewal, which gives us an extra 1500 stamina. So, now, passives: Defiance, reduced cost to break free. Tumbling, reduced cost to roll dodge. Hero's Vigor, which gives us an extra 560 max health. This is a really good one to have, and it is something that I would keep on my, or try to have at all times. And then we have Wind Chaser. We have Hasty within Wind Chaser, which gives us an extra 4% movement speed. Sprinter, which reduces the cost of sprint. Tireless Guardian, which reduces the cost of block. Fortification increases the amount of damage you can block. Savage Defense reduces the cost of bash. Bash and Brutality increases the damage of your bash. And then when walking distance, we have Nimble Protector, which gives us an extra 6% movement speed while we're blocking. Now, a good passive to have, which isn't necessarily mandatory, just kind of, you can go up either way from here and go into Tempered Soul. Basically, if we get one-shotted for whatever reason, when we get res, this gives us 10% of our resources back. So it's just really nice to have. So on our blue tree, Precision gives us an extra 320 critical chance. Tireless Discipline, which gives us an extra 520 max stamina. And then Piercing, which gives us an extra 700 offensive penetration. Battle Mastery, which gives us an extra 60% increased chance to apply martial status effect. And then Mighty grants us 100 weapon and spell damage to martial attacks. It affects physical, poison, disease, and bleed damage. Now, for the ones I keep on my bar, I keep Fighting Finesse on my bar at all times, just increasing my critical damage and critical heal by 10%. Now, I also have Biting Aura, increases damage done with area effect attacks by 10%. Master at Arms, increases your damage done with direct damage attacks by 10%. And Thermometer, which increases your damage with damage over time effects by 10%. Now, Backstabber, if you know you can stay behind the enemy at all times, or flank the enemy, you know you're going to get that extra 15% critical damage. This is better. It's good to have this on your bar, and I would drop Master at Arms. That's just me. So, because we have a lot of dots, so at the moment it's definitely worth keeping. But Master at Arms, you can drop that for Backstabber. So, that's just me. But roll with whatever you feel is comfortable. I've even tried out Untamed Aggression a little bit, but I feel like these four just kind of outperform Untamed Aggression, and no matter what setup you're using. So, but roll with whatever makes you feel comfortable, wherever you feel like you're getting the most out of it. So, sets wise, the first set that we're running is a very, very easy one to get. It is Dagger. It's Viper, the Viper Sting set from Fungal Grotto 1. We're running 2 daggers precise, one with an absorb stamina enchant to help us with our resource management, and a poison damage enchant. Now, personally, if you have trouble sustaining and you can roll with this, I would ditch the absorb stamina enchant for a flame damage enchant. That's just me. So, now, what this set does is this comes from Fungal Grotto 1, and it gives us critical chance, max stamina, critical chance, and when you deal damage with a martial melee attack, you did additional 5k poison damage over 4 seconds. This effect can occur once every 4 seconds, scales off the higher of your weapon or spell damage. Now, this stuff can crit, and it is awesome now that this crits. It's absolutely amazing. We're running it dual daggers, and we're running jewelry, all robust, all with weapon damage. Now, you're going to get the most out of your jewelry if you like this set to go 2 bloodthirsty, 1 infused, or all 3 bloodthirsty. Personally, on the same DK, we do not have an execute, so personally, I would go 3 bloodthirsty. Take that damage there. That lasts a little bit. During the execute phase, you're going to get the most out of bloodthirsty. You're going to get more weapon and spell damage out of bloodthirsty during the execute phase than you would infused. And because we do not have an execute, having our abilities hit harder during that execute phase, that most crucial stage, I would go 3 bloodthirsty. So that's just me. But this comes from Fungal Grotto. You can get a named ring. You can also get a named necklace. They come from the very first boss, the little ogre or orc. Yeah, I think, or goblin. Is he a goblin? I think he's a goblin. Like when you first walk up the hill, you'll meet all that room with the big mobs, and you'll go across the little lake. There's a goblin there, and you can get a named ring, which is this one, and then you can get a named necklace, which is called the Huntsmaster Leash. Now, for weapons, the dagger, if you do the second one, you can get a dagger called Knife of Shadows from the second boss. So the one that pins you down, they drop this one, and basically, it's all you need. Once you get it, comes sharpened, so you can keep sharpened if you want, but it will give you the item to transmute. So it's the set is very easy to farm no matter what. So now back bar, we're running Maelstrom Bow infused with a weapon damage enchant. This will basically just increase the damage volley deals by 430 each tick. Bonus increases by 143 every time volley ticks, up to a maximum of 8 times. This comes from normal Maelstrom Arena, and Maelstrom Arena is very, very easy on normal. So just go in there. It might take you a few runs, but with the new loot system, you're guaranteed to get one in so many runs. So I would just go do it. It's going to increase your DPS to 3k, and it's definitely worth it. So now, with that, the monster set that we're running is Stormfist. We're running 2 light divines with max stamina. So what this does is gives us stam recovery, and when we deal damage, you have a 10% chance to create a Thunder Fist to crush an enemy, dealing 1.3k shock damage every 1 second for 3 seconds to all enemies within 4 meters, and a final 15.1k physical damage when the fist closes. Effect can occur once every 8 seconds, scales off the higher of your weapon or spell damage. Now trust me, this comes from Tempest Island. It's a very easy dungeon to get through on Vet. Last boss is the only place where you should have trouble, and basically you just hug her until she goes to do her AoE, and then you back up and run back in. As long as your group is doing that, she won't charge and one-shot anybody, and it will stop the Dust Tornadoes from kicking up, so you shouldn't have any trouble. Now, if for whatever reason you are having trouble, you can go right back into Fungal Grotto 1, and in Fungal Grotto 1, you can get Crags. Crags gives you offensive penetration, and when you deal damage, you have a 10% chance to spawn drag limbs that create shotwaves in front of you, dealing 1.2k physical damage every 0.6 seconds for 2.4 seconds. Effect can occur once every 6 seconds and scales off the higher of your weapon or spell damage. Now, There is also Celine's, which adds max stamina, and when you deal martial melee damage, you call upon a primal spirit that mauls the closest enemy in front of you after 1.3 seconds for 7.5k physical damage. Effect can occur once every 6 seconds, goes off the higher of your weapon or spell damage. Those would be the sets that I would roll with. Me personally, I would go Stormfist. Stormfist is just the best stamina monster set right now. Krags is pretty strong too. It is the easiest one to get, but if you can get in there, get Stormfist, go for it. So, now, the second 5-piece set that we're running is Swamp Raiders. We're running a Divine's chest, waist, everything. Now, we do have an infused legs. Um, Personally, Divines will help you. All 7 Divines is better, but one infused is not going to hurt you. And if you have to have one infused, or if you want one infused, try to make it one of the bigger pieces, like legs, chest, or helmet, because you'll get the most out of your enchantment that way. Usually try to keep your smaller pieces, shoulders, waist, gloves, and boots and divines. And then if you're going to have one infused, make it be one of the bigger pieces. Uh, so that way you get more. Because this is 969. If it's golded out, it'll be over 1,000. Where even if this was golded out, it would only be like 400. So it's really not worth it on the smaller pieces. Now, Swamp Raider comes from Shadowfen. It is an overland set, so it is another very easy set to get. This gives you critical chance, max stamina, weapon damage, and it adds 579 weapon damage to your poison and disease damage abilities. Outside of a couple, everything here is poison damage. So our main Spamble is not poison, but it's okay because our dots are all poison, and that is where most of the damage from the DK comes from, is the dots. So this is nice, and this doesn't show up on your stat sheet. And it is an overland set, so it is very easy to get. Now, Viper will crit as well, so it's actually really nice to have. So, but there is a set that I want to bring attention to because I absolutely love running it. So let me scroll all the way down here because it is on another character right now because I'm trying to get out. And that is Vice Cannon. But this comes from Imperial City. You have to use Telvar to get it. It is on the Guild Traders. Not a lot of it is, though. So, personally, I would run this on weapons and jewelry, or like a few pieces body, and then run the daggers, because this is a set where you can bar swap off of, very similar to Viper. So, basically, this would give you max stamina, weapon damage, stamina recovery, and when you deal direct critical damage to an enemy while behind them, you inject them with a leeching poison that deals 7k poison damage over 10 seconds to them, and heals you for 100% of the damage done. This effect can occur once every 10 seconds per enemy and scales off the higher of your weapon or spell damage. Now, this is blue, golded out. That I think the base is like around 9k, or I think, no, we'll just go with purple. It's at least 8k purple. So, with everything going on, you're looking at 12. I think the character that I have it on right now is looking at like, it's like a 16k dot for him, and that's 100% healed. Plus, it can crit, and when it crits, I get healed for that extra damage that it does. So, but because this set isn't very easy to get a hook to, I didn't showcase. I didn't DPS test with. Another set that I really like on the DK is Scavenging Demise. This comes from Depths of Haltar, gives you weapon damage, critical chance, and when you deal critical poison damage to an enemy, you summon a Scavenging Maw which attacks your enemy after 2 seconds. The Scavenging Maw deals 14k poison damage and inflicts minor vulnerability for 15 seconds, increasing their damage taken by 5%. And then there's also Moratong, which gives you weapon damage, max down weapon damage, and when you deal direct damage, you cause the enemy to take 10% more damage from poison and disease attacks for 5 seconds. So if you want to stick with the poison theme, more or less, for your second set, you have Demise, Moratong, Viper, and you have Vice Cannon. All them sets are really good to run, and it wouldn't hurt nothing. DPS would be very similar to Viper. Actually, I think Moratong and Demise would probably pull more DPS, but just me. So, skills. Rapid Strikes. Flood an enemy with steel, battering them with 5 consecutive attacks that each deal 1.4k physical damage. Each hit increases the damage of the subsequent hit by 3%. Final hit deals 300% more damage. Now, you have another spammable that you can use here, and that is Stone Giant. Crush the earth beneath you, dealing 9.6k physical damage to all enemies within 6 meters of you. Debris ripped from the ground is held around you for 12 seconds. Activating the ability again, it allows you to launch part of the debris at an enemy, dealing 8.8k physical damage up to 3 times. A final cast stunts. Each hit applies stagger, increasing damage taken by 65 per stack for 6 seconds. Now, this is definitely easier to use. This will increase the damage of the overall group, but it can feel kind of clunky to use. That's just me personally. I know some people who don't mind it, who have no problem with it. Me, it feels clunky. So I just stick with rapid strikes when I'm by myself. So, now, second ability is Venomous Claw. Rake an enemy with your claw, dealing 5k poison damage, an additional 18.2k poison damage over 14 seconds. The poison seeps into the target and deals increased damage the longer it lasts, dealing 20% more damage every 2 seconds. Enemies hit by the initial hit are afflicted with poison status effect. So this is one of those abilities you really want to let run out or take it down to the wire to get the most out of it. Noxious Breath. Exhale corrosive blast enemies in front of you, dealing 8.5k poison damage and additional 14k poison damage over 14 seconds. Afflicts enemies with major breach and reducing their physical and spell resistance by 5.9. So, 14 seconds. They're both on the same timer. Then Barb Trap. Set a sharpened blade trap at your location, which takes 1.5 seconds to arm, and lasts for 15 seconds. While triggered, the trap deals 4.4k bleed damage and additional 15.9k bleed damage over 18 seconds, grants you minor force, increasing your critical damage by 10% for the duration. So this is to give us our minor force, and it is a really nice dot. Camo Hunter, just here for the weapon skill passive, plus it gives us major savagery. And when we deal an critical damage from an enemy flank, we get major berserk, increasing our crit damage, or increasing our damage by 5%. So, Dawnbreaker, arm yourself in Meridia's Sacred Sword and dispense a retribution, dealing 12k physical damage to enemies in front of you, an additional 13.2 physical damage over 6 seconds. After activating, your weapon and spell damage is increased by 300. For the DK, honestly, I wouldn't use this unless you're near that execute phase and you just need that little extra damage. But for the most part, we're going to use the ultimate on our back bar. So, then we have Poison Injection here. Shoot an arrow coated in bend arrow poison at an enemy, dealing 4.6k poison damage and additional 9.2k poison damage over 10 seconds. Deals 100% more damage to enemies under 50% health. Arrow Barrage lasts for 10 seconds. Launch a multitude of arrows into the sky to rain down, dealing 1.8k physical damage to enemies in the target area every 1 second for 8 seconds after a 2-second delay. Then we have Flames of Oblivion, lasts for 15 seconds. Activate an Aura of Flames, which launches a fireball at 3 enemies every 5 seconds, dealing 6.4k flame damage. Whilst on it, you gain Major Prophecy and Savagery, increasing your spell and weapon critical rating by 2.6. Ability skills offer your highest offensive stat. That's why we use it. Now, personally, I am thinking about going back and changing Arrow Barrage to Endless Hell, but then when I bar swap, just to turn around bar swap back, it would just be weird, because this lasts for 15 seconds, these last for 10. So when I bar swap, I cast Arrow Barrage, Poison Injection, spam off like maybe 1 or 2 more rapid strikes. Usually it's like 1 or 2, and then bar swap back for Flames of Oblivion. And then I just kind of bar swap back to recast these, then bar swap. It's a lot of bar swapping. The DK rotation is not static by any means. So, and then we have Igneous Weapon. Charge you and your group's allies' weapons with volcanic power to gain major brutality and sorcery, increasing your weapon and spell damage by 20% for 54 seconds. So, just a nice little ability. This basically gives us our major brutality, and then with this and Camo Hunter, we get major savagery, so we can get away with using trash pots instead of using weapon power pots in this setup. And then we have our heal, Resolve and Figure, Let Loose, Battle Cry, installing yourself Resolve and healing for 15.5k health over 4 seconds. So, now this is our main ultimate. It uses 250 ultimate, and this is what we use, Standard Might. Call down a battle standard, dealing 4.2k flame damage every 1 second for 20 seconds to enemies, and apply a major defile to them, reducing their healing received and health recovery by 16%. Standing in the air increases your damage done and reduces damage taken by 15%. So while we're in it, we're going to increase our damage by 15%. That's nice. Especially with our dots going, everything. That is a huge extra bit of damage. An ally near the standard can activate the Shackle Synergy, dealing 10.2k flame damage to enemies in the area and immobilizing them for 5 seconds. But this is our main ultimate that we're going to use, and that's mostly just because we get that extra 15% damage. So it definitely is worth using. So now, rotation wise, or with this setup, I guess I should go over the setup. The DPS 35.9, almost 36k. Kind of lagged up there for a little bit, and I don't know what happened. I got stuck in a heavy attack rotation, more or less. Instead of light attacking, he charged up heavy attack. So I think if that wouldn't have happened, I would have hit 36k, no problem. Which is nice, especially seeing how I'm in Viper and Swamp Raider, which are the one is a beginner dungeon set, and the other one is an overland set in Shadowfen. So very nice. So when it comes to this in general, DPS testing, I don't have my ultimate, so but we use this. We'll pop this. It lasts for a minute, so or 55 seconds, and then we hit Flames of Oblivion, Fire Trap, Arrow Barrage, Light Attack, Poison Injection, Noxious Breath, Claw, and then fire off a few Rapid Strikes. You can see up there your arrow, 2 seconds. I usually rotate, swap, and then just fire off a few more. Flame, Noxious, Claw, and then just go back to it. And then that kind of puts everything very similar. Every 2 rotations, everything is going to kind of run out together. So, and you just keep it going. It is not a static rotation by any means. Don't forget to reapply Trap like I did there. But it is not a static rotation by any means. It is definitely one that you're going to be jumping around on. Usually every 2 rotations, all your dots are going to run out together every second rotation. So it's just kind of how it works out that way. Use your standard of might when you can, and throw your spawn wolves out in between your dots. So it's up to you. It's not very staticky. I know I try to keep them as static as I can, but there was just absolutely no way to keep that static. But I'm loving it. It's a very easy setup. If you can, I do recommend getting Vice Cannon and Scavenging Demise to put with Swamp Raider. I absolutely love those on a DK over Viper. That's just me personally. But Viper is not a bad set to run with, and if you're just starting out, you can still pull decent numbers to get into whatever you need to do. 36k or 35 or even 30k is more than enough to do any normal trial, any vet dungeon in 4-man content. So 30k, even if you just hit 30 with this setup, you will be absolutely fine in doing anything. So let me know what you run on your STEM DK. And until next time, take care and have fun.